You can't move a conversation forward until the other person feels heard. A lot of us are very guilty of having a conversation just to be heard. We just want the other person to listen to us and we want to have a conversation, but we really just want to get our own point across. So this is where active listening and empathy, trying to put yourself in their shoes, comes in really handy, becomes almost a superpower, and allows you to really try to understand this other human in front of you as much as you can. Let's hop into this. When you listen with the main goal being to try to understand this person as opposed to try to reply, listening just so that I can reply and sound smart or be right or whatever it is, when you change it to be, I want to understand this person, magic can happen. Using empathetic statements like, that must be really frustrating, and summarizing back what you heard can help make them feel more understood and even diffuse emotions. But let's dive into more details about all of these things. Let's start with active listening. This is something that once I learned about it, I realized I was not doing it. And now I can't help but think about how I can show up better, how I can actively listen more to the people in my life, to the people that I work with, because it truly allows me to connect more with those people. I'd love you to pause the video right now and think about how you actively listen. What are some things that you would do to show that you're actively listening? And if you can't think of ones that you do, think about a conversation where you feel like the person was really listening to what you were saying. What were they doing? When you're done, feel free to keep going with the video. Awesome, let's move on. Active listening goes so much more further than just hearing the words that are coming out of their mouth. It's about fully engaging with the speaker and trying to truly understand the message that they're trying to get across. And that could be on different levels. The words, the body language, the tone, what they're not saying, all of those little specific things. And then that's followed up by showing understanding in your response to what they're saying. And that can't happen if you're preparing in your head what you're gonna say, the amazing thing that you're gonna say to this person, they're gonna think you're so smart. No, you need to listen fully and then formulate your answer. These are the 4 things that really show that you're active listening. I'm sure there are others as well, but these are the ones that I think are easiest to think about, easiest to apply right away. Give your full attention. Put distractions away. Put your phone on airplane mode or put it away or face down. Make eye contact with them so that they know that you're listening and paying attention, and be fully in this moment right now. Not thinking about what you need to do later, not thinking about how a past conversation went. You were here. This is the only person in the world. Number 2, ask clarifying questions. Try to dig deeper to truly understand what they're saying and don't make assumptions. I know it can be really easy to just think, oh, I assume that this is what they're trying to say. But confirm, dig a little deeper, get them to tell me more. It's one of my favorite phrases to use, and to go into a bit more detail. Number 3, resist the urge to interrupt. It is human to want to interrupt, whether it be with excitement or your own ideas, your words, you're going to forget what you wanted to say. Don't do that. Try to just listen to them completely, and at the end, make whatever comments you need to. And I get it. As a recovering overthinker, sometimes you're wanting to formulate your responses to make sure they're smart, to make sure this person agrees with you, to make sure whatever it is. But I'm telling you, the more you just listen and take a few moments at the end to think about what you want to say next, the better that conversation will go and the more connected that person will feel with you. And number 4, once you've gone through all that, reflect back. Paraphrase what they've said to you or what your understanding is of what they've said to make sure that you're on the same page. This way they know that you're not just sitting there waiting for your turn to talk. You've actually sat here listening, trying to learn more, and this is what you've understood. And now you can find out, are we on the same page? This brings me to a story. I think that stories really help us connect with things that have happened. And this way you can see a time where I had to really enlist active listening to make sure that I could connect with this person. At a past job, I was trying to iron out the process between the revenue team and the customer success team. There was a lot of tension, as there often is. Sales is out here over-promising. Customer success is needing to get these things through and starting on the wrong foot if over-promising has happened. We weren't using the same technology, so it was really difficult to pass information. There was a process in place that was very gray. It was not black and white, not obvious whose job was what. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to help sort this out once and for all. How hard can it be? It was a bit of a rabbit hole. However, there was this one conversation, and a few people that I had mentioned I was going to meet with her too had said, oh, she's very difficult. She's really hard to work with. She always pushes back. So I was preparing myself for a difficult conversation. I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to build rapport. I'm gonna have to really listen. I'm gonna have to have empathy. And I got to that conversation all ready to deal with a very difficult human. And initially it was very cold. It was a little bit, not awkward, but I could tell that the defenses were up. But what I did was I listened. I first started to try to get into what I was going to, but then I realized she was needing someone to listen to her because her back immediately got up and she started saying, well, we've been trying to sort this out for months, so I don't know why this is going to help. So I said, I would love to hear from your side. What has been difficult right now? What would your ideal situation be? What have you guys tried already that maybe hasn't worked? Because I would really love to come together with you and figure this out. So she started talking, and you could tell she was talking a little bit fast, as if she had been cut off a lot of times. My sense was that in other conversations, she'd been cut off and people would start talking to be like, oh, well, this is what I think. But I just let her keep going. And I'd say, my God, that sounds so frustrating. Or, oh gosh, okay, tell me more. Okay, and then what happened? Just to get her to keep going and going. Then we got to the end. She had gotten it all out. There wasn't more to tell. And I said, okay, so what I'm hearing is, this is what's happening. This is why it's frustrating, and it's meaning you guys are having to do double work all the time. It's meaning you guys have to keep adding these additional fields, and then sometimes that's still not even getting to the customer success team. Is that right? Am I understanding that right? She's like, yes. And I was like, oh my God, that's so annoying. I am so glad that we were talking, because I think together we can figure out something that actually works, something that's going to make sure that you guys don't have to do extra work, that's going to make sure that customers have a smoother process, and customer success is going to be happier because they're going to have more information right off the bat and not have to be getting stuff out of the customer or not be surprised or blindsided by things. She's like, oh my God, okay, I'm so excited to work with you. You could just see the frost melted, and we ended up working on a bunch of projects after that together. And all it took was someone being willing to actively listen and empathize with her. So you would be surprised how you can just change someone's demeanor, someone's attitude by just listening. Some people just really want to be listened to, and taking that little bit of extra time can go such a long way. So listening is amazing, but there is that part where you want to add in more questions. It's almost like doing a discovery with this person to really make sure you're understanding. So let's hop into powerful questions. I'd love you to pause it and come up with some powerful questions. And of course, I'm going to give you some, but I'd love to see if you have some that you really like. Some to try to understand what a person's going through, what they're feeling, what their experience of a situation is, what they believe the issue is. So pause it right now and write down a few questions that you like or questions that you could see being really helpful. Awesome. And also in the PDF that you can download, you'll find a list of powerful questions too. So feel free to reference those, but let's hop into some right now. The questions that you ask can shape a conversation and head it in a much more positive and constructive direction. They can open a dialogue, they can build understanding, and move the conversation forward to figuring something out, to being able to move forward together into something better. Today, we're going to talk about 3 different types of questions. I think that there are more out there, but these are the 3 that I tend to go to the most. Open-ended questions is the first one. These are ones that aren't a yes or no answer. So if you can answer this question by saying yes, no, or one word, it is not open-ended. You want to make sure that they're going to expand. They're going to storytell. They're going to talk about a feeling. They're going to expand in some way that isn't just black and white. So let's say they're saying something is really frustrating, it's not working out for them. You could say something like, okay, and can you tell me exactly what's concerning you about it? Or can you tell me more about that? Or you could say something like, okay, well, what would success look like from your perspective? Or what would this look like if it was going well? Let's say you're talking to a partner about this. It could be something like, can you tell me more about how that made you feel? Dig into what exactly is their experience, what's not going well, and what could it look like if it was going better. Number 2 is exploratory questions. And this is when you're trying to explore a little bit deeper and get more of their feelings on it. So let's say they've mentioned a feeling, I'm feeling really frustrated right now. Oh, okay, well, what's behind that feeling? Or I'd love to understand what matters most to you here. Can you help me understand? So you're just trying to understand their situation, understand where these feelings are coming from. Why are they feeling triggered right now? And then future-focused questions. So these are questions that, of course, focus on the future. What would you like to see happen next? In your ideal world, what would be your next step? Or even just something like, well, I've heard this, I've repeated things back to you, I've empathized with you, and then you might follow up with something like, how can we move forward from here? Having those great questions can allow you to uncover more information, but then it's important not to just ask good questions, it's important to empathize and validate what they're going through as well. Empathy is that ability to understand and share someone else's feelings, to be able to put yourself in their shoes. What would it feel like if this was happening to me? When we show empathy, we are showing other people that we care about them, that we are interested in finding a way forward together, and that we are trying to connect with them, because at the end of the day, we are all just humans trying to do the best job that we possibly can. If you're someone like me who sometimes when people are upset or emotional, you feel like you can't find the right words and you don't know what to say, these are 3 phrases that I find tend to work really well and allow people to feel like you're there for them. You can acknowledge the other person's emotions by saying something like, Wow, that sounds really frustrating. Just agreeing that what they're going through is frustrating. You can show that you understand their perspective by saying something like, I get why you would feel frustrated. That clearly is important to you. And then let's say things are getting really heated and they're getting really upset. A way to sort of refocus and reset is to say something like, let's pause and reset. Let's take a breath and just reset and then start again. When people are able to take a few moments, it can bring that temperature down. But the key to all this is, again, to always keep in your mind, remember, you are not just waiting to talk. You are not just waiting to respond. You are actually trying to empathize with this person and make them feel heard and validated. Be in this moment with this person now. Let's practice this. So imagine you're in a meeting. You're in a meeting with a client and things are getting heated. They're starting to raise their voice and you can tell they're getting really frustrated. They're getting a little flushed in the cheeks. Their voice is getting louder. What do you say? 1, jump to defend your point. Jump to explain how it's actually a great idea that we do X, Y, or Z. Stay quiet and just let them vent. Just sit there and quietly let them go until they're finished. Or C, say something like, I can see that you're really frustrated. Why don't we just pause and reset? If you chose C, then you are picking the empathetic response. So we've moved from a customer venting and very upset, then we can move to a place where we allow them to vent, we actively listen, we discover more about what they're saying. They then feel empathized with, you summarize their concerns, and then together you can move to that problem-solving mode. This completely changes the tone of the conversation from a difficult conversation to us trying to problem solve a problem together. It's us against the problem instead of me against you. I dare you to try something this week. Go to your calendar right now and add a little thing in there. For next week, put in your calendar after a call to think about what is one thing I could have said or did say that was empathetic in that call. What was a sentence that I said? There will be a list of suggestions in the downloadable PDF, but I'd love you to start thinking about this. After calls that you have, after conversations that you have, think about when was I empathetic in that call, because it will allow you to push yourself to be more empathetic. All right, and that wraps up empathy and active listening. I'm so glad you came along for this. Hopefully you found this helpful and you've started to think about ways that it shows up for you and ways that it can show up more in your day-to-day life. Up next, we're going to talk about pushing back with confidence. This is something that for me was very scary. Again, being a recovering people pleaser, so this is a skill I really had to work on. And just because you're having a difficult conversation doesn't mean that you always have to be the one to bend. Yes, you want to actively listen and have empathy, but sometimes you have to be able to push back. So I hope you join me in the next one.